Well, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood for this neighbor. So, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood stars Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers and Matthew Rice as Lloyd, a editor at a magazine company who designed a fluff piece on Mr. Rogers and trying to expose him for somebody that he probably isn't. But once he meets Mr. Rogers in real life, he witnesses that Mr. Rogers on camera is the same person off a camera, and thus begins a new and beautiful friendship between these two characters. Now, I was really excited to see this movie because I am a huge fan of Mr. Rogers. I grew up watching him. I loved the documentary last year, and I was really excited when they casted Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers because I love it when they cast Tom Hanks as real life people like they did with Walt Disney, and he really embodies Mr. Rogers in this film. And there are some issues with the movie that I will discuss later, but the pros for this movie is whenever the camera is on Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers, the movie feels magical and unique in several ways. And I really love Tom Hanks' performance as Mr. Rogers. I think the directing from Marielle Heller, who directed one of my favorite movies of last year, Can You Ever Forgive Me, did a wonderful job with this film. And I loved the dialogue in this film, the characters in this film, and I like the way that they fleshed out Lloyd in this film as this guy who is really down on life. He has issues between him and his father, played by Chris Cooper, who was a really nice surprise because I had no idea he was in this movie. So it follows the story of Lloyd, who's try not to exploit Mr. Rogers, but kind of see if there's like a different side to who he is on camera. And when he finds out that both Mr. Rogers on camera and off camera are the same personas, his life is turned around because he doesn't believe that there's one person that is doing so much good. He goes out and tries to write this little fluff piece that he was assigned to, and that's where the movie loses steam for me. Now, I do think that everybody in this film did a really good job, but one of the flaws that I had with the movie and kind of rubbed me the wrong way is that we spend more time with Lloyd, who's the movie is based upon, but we also get minimal interaction between him and Mr. Rogers because I think when both of those characters are on screen together, there's something magical about it. But whenever it cuts off of him and deals with him, it kind of doesn't drive the film in a good way, and it kind of left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. And I didn't hate this movie. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I wish there was a little bit more Mr. Rogers and less Lloyd because this movie really does. Because the strength of this film lies on Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers, and that's where the magic spark happens. But whenever we go back to Lloyd, it's unnecessary, and I get that this movie revolves around his real life experiences with Mr. Rogers, but I feel like this could have felt like two different movies wrapped into one. It kind of felt like a Mr. Rogers biopic with this real life true story about this guy who is just assigned to him to interview him, but then they begin a bond in this film. And a lot of people that told Mr. Rogers maybe interviewing this guy isn't a great idea, but one of his colleagues, I believe, or producers or agent, insisted that he meet with Lloyd, and I really dug that part of the film. And there is some heartbreaking moments. There are some moments where you just smile and just want to cry a little bit, but most of those scenes happen when Mr. Rogers is on camera, not when we got our main character on screen. And I really dug those parts. It's not as great as I wanted it to be, and it's decent enough. It's not borderline bad or it's horrible. It's solid. It's decent as it could be, and I enjoyed myself a little bit. There are some humorous moments in this film, and I think everybody in this film did a really good job. And I can't wait to see what Marielle Heller does next because I think she did a really good job with this film. I think she did a wonderful job with Can You Ever Forgive Me, and I can't wait to see what she does next. I'm going to go ahead and give Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood an 8 out of 10. Not perfect, not as good as I wanted it to be, but it's still decent. I recommend you guys go ahead and check this film out. film out if you are a fan of Mr. Rogers or if you were at least intrigued in this movie. I think it is a decent watch and not a waste of your time. But overall, I enjoyed it. Wish it could have been better, but I enjoyed what we got. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section what you think about the movie. Did you enjoy it? Did you like it? Did you not enjoy it? What were your expectations for this movie? Go ahead and let me know down in the comment section. And if you like this review, go ahead and click that like and subscribe button and share it around if you did enjoy it. And go ahead and check out my other reviews. I got a couple of other reviews coming out as well. And until next time, this is Josie's Reviews.